Hey guys, so I'm Jess, and I'm one of the core members at Southside, and I am going to give a talk on Gerald McBoing. I can't hang out with you this weekend because I have to work, so I'm sorry. Actually, I came from work to give you this talk. How exciting. Look, work. And so first I'm going to start reading the story, then I'll talk a little bit, and then it'll be Taylor's turn to take over for me. Okay. So Gerald McBoing by Dr. Seuss. This is the story of Gerald McCloy and the strange thing that started happening to the little boy. They say it all started. I have such a hard time doing a mirror. Okay. They say it all started when Gerald was 2. That's the age when kids start talking. At least most of them do. Well, when he started talking, you know what he said? He didn't talk words. He went boing boing instead. What's that? Cried his father, his face turning gray. That's a very odd thing for a young boy to say. And poor Gerald's father, And poor Gerald's father rushed to the phone, quick dialed the number of Dr. Malone. Come over fast, the poor father pled. Our boy can't speak words. He goes boing boing instead. This is the actually appropriate picture here. I see, said the doctor. It's just as you said. He doesn't speak words. He goes boing boing instead. I've no cure for this. I can't handle the case. He packed up his pills and walked out of the place. The months passed, and Gerald got louder and louder, till one day he went boom, like a big keg of powder. Then his father said, "This is enough! He'll drive us both mad. All this terrible stuff. A boy of his age shouldn't sound like a fool. He's got to learn words. We must send him to school." So Gerald marched off in an obedient creature, but soon was back home with a note from a teacher. From Public School 7 to Mrs. McCloy. Your little son's Gerald's most helpless boy. We cannot accept him, for we have a rule that pupils must not go ka-choo in our school. Your boy will go honk all his life, I'm afraid. Sincerely yours, Fanny Schultz, teacher, 1st grade. As Gerald grew older, he found when a fellow goes BAM, no one wants him around. When a fellow goes shriek, he won't have any friends. For once he says clang, 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 all the fun ends. Naya, Naya, they all shouted. Your name's not McCloy. You're Gerald McBoing, the noise-making boy. Ooh, there's a picture. Poor Gerald decided that he had no place at home, in the school, in the whole human race. So sad. So he concluded that drear and forlorn, he would just disappear into the thick of a storm. But as he was boarding a slow-moving freight, a voice from the darkness called, "Stop, boy! Wait!" Aren't you Gerald McBoing, the lad who makes squeaks? My boy, I have searched for you many long weeks. I can take you to the most famous lad in the nation, for I own the Bong 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 radio station. I need a smart fellow to make all the sounds, who can bark like a dog and bay like the hounds. Your gong is terrific. Your toot is inspired. Come to bong, bong, bong. McBoing, boing, you're hired. Now his parents, proud parents, are able to boast, that's their Gerald's clop, clop, bang. That's known from coast to coast. Now Gerald is rich. He has friends. He's well fed. 'Cause he doesn't speak words. He goes boing, boing instead. The end. Okay. So, as you can see from the theme in this story, it is uniqueness and how everybody has talents in those unique talents. That was said poorly. I'm so sorry. So, you're on Luke 19, right? So, the 19th chapter of Luke in the Bible has a parable of 10 gold coins. And I'm going to pick one little small verse and tie it into my story. So the verse is, it's Luke 19, verse 26. I tell you, to everyone who has, more will be given. But to the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. So I want you to see that our own talents are unique gifts from God, and to which more can be given and more can be taken away. God calls us to be like Gerald, calls us to give our gifts and give of ourselves and use our talent and to use it well to stand out, just like Gerald stood out. There are ways we haven't even imagined yet that God wants us to use our talents because he has a vocation for us. So my little testimony is that when I was a senior in college, I was dating someone super seriously. As in, we were talking marriage. As in, we had talked to his pastor. We had talked to my pastor. We had a ring picked out. And we were super set on being together. So he was looking at grad schools, and I was looking at jobs, period, because I'm a nurse, obviously. And shoot, nurses can find jobs anywhere. That's what I thought. So I was applying to different cities, and I kept getting rejections, but whatever. That's what happens when you're a new grad. Not that big of a deal. So about a month from graduation, we broke up, and I was devastated. I had such a hard time coping with this that I went home a lot. And something that you might not know about me is that I'm not from St. Louis, not from Missouri. I'm from a small town outside Omaha, Nebraska, so I'm still from the Midwest. And I went home a lot after we broke up, and I didn't know what to do. And I was so close to graduating, and my mom said, why don't you just move home after graduation? Like, you don't have to worry about money. We can take care of you, because my parents are so awesome. So awesome. Just move home and we'll help relieve this burden from you. So I graduated. I moved home. I was still looking for jobs and still getting rejections everywhere. I was mostly looking for jobs in Nebraska or like the area around my hometown. And I was getting phone interviews, but that's all I would go. They wouldn't want an in-person interview. Turns out, nobody wants to hire a new grad. Like, seriously. Which is really upsetting. And I was very fed up with the whole system of how am I supposed to be hired if I don't have experience? How am I supposed to get experience if I can't get hired? So I came to St. Louis for a weekend during the summer and visited friends. And one of them suggested that I apply to SSM one more time and see, because they were opening up a new program for grads, like a new class, I don't know, cohort, I don't know what you would call it. So I applied, and I waited a week, and then I called them, and I wanted to know if they got my application. And they said, well, you applied in the spring, and we didn't consider you then, so we're not going to consider you now. Best of luck, apply again in a year. In a year? Are you serious? Okay, whatever. What's one more rejection? Okay, fine. So I was desperate. I cried a lot, obviously. I was heartbroken. I didn't have a job. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I essentially had my life planned out. Like I said, I knew I was going to get married, and I knew what the steps to take were, and I thought I had met the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and my family loved him, and I loved his family, and things were going great. And then I got the rug pulled out from under me, and I had no idea what to do. And I was desperate, and I was upset, and I didn't know, I said, fine, God, I give up. I give up. I can't do this anymore. This is all on you, because this is exhausting. I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. I can't worry about this and have the stress of what am I going to do with the rest of my life. So I don't know how long it was after that. It wasn't long, a week or two. I got a call from SSM, and they wanted to do a phone interview. And I was like, yeah, sure. So weird, because you had just told me you didn't want me. Now you're telling me you do. So I interviewed over the phone, and then a week or two later, they called me back and wanted to do an in-person interview. So I said, okay. So I drove down to St. Louis for a weekend. Well, not for a weekend, for a few days, and stayed with friends. I did my interview. And then about a week later, they offered me a job as an RN. Didn't know what floor, but I had a job. I was ecstatic. I, of course, said yes, because nobody else had offered me a job. And why wouldn't I say yes? So a couple days later, I came down to St. Louis with my mom. There's a lot of driving back and forth. Shoot. Came down to St. Louis with my mom, and we had 6 or 7 housing appointments set up to find an apartment. And I found my apartment, and I, as you can tell, I'm in my kitchen right now. Sorry, it's kind of a mess. And I signed the lease. Everything was done. Felt great about it. My mom, as we were pulling into my landlord's driveway, she had a vote for life or something like that sticker on her car. And my mom's like, oh my gosh, this is meant to be. She's totally Catholic. This is so great. And I was like, okay, Mom, whatever. Yep, totally. Great. She's weird. Signed my lease, went back home the next day. Then shortly after, I got a call to interview in women's health on the floor that I work on now. And I came down not even a week later, and I interviewed. And I thought it went well. I had no idea. I knew I already had a job, so what could I lose? And they offered me the position a week later. But I think it's interesting how, the moment I was like, okay, God, I give up. I can't do this alone. I don't know what to do. That's the moment you're like, well, I know what you want, even though you don't know it, and you're going to get it. Well done. Good job, Jess. So I was just very surprised at how my real world had turned out, because that's not what I was expecting at all. Not at all what I had planned. So I want to let you know that God sees us all differently. We're not all equal, because we're made in the image and likeness of God. So we reflect God differently, because God has many different unique talents and attributes, and we reflect those all back to God. So if we saw Gerald, so back to Gerald McBoing, if we saw Gerald the way his dad or his mom or his doctor or neighborhood kids, teacher saw him, we could have dismissed his talents. If Bong Bong, my bad, Bong 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 radio station hadn't connected with him, there would have been no growth for Gerald and no growth for the radio station. So we need to better learn to embrace our unique talents and to see how God be willing to open up ourselves to God's vocation for us. Because we're made to glorify God. And we need to pray for being humble to accept God's call for us, even though that's not what we think our talents should lead us to, but what where we will be most fruitful is the places that we let God into. So I want you to see that our identity through Christ is what's most important, and that we see ourselves through Him, that we're made to glorify God. Once we recognize ourselves as gifts and see that we are created in His image and likeness, we can accept who we are. So today, while you guys are on retreat, I'm doing a job I absolutely love. I love you guys, don't get me wrong, but I'm very blessed that God made it so I'm able to provide for myself in a career that I absolutely love. That I went into nursing because I wanted to do women's health, because it's in our society, it's a very mystified portrayal of how we should be and how God wants us to be, and how that can't go along with how our bodies actually are. So I became a nurse because I wanted to educate women on what their bodies do. And through my job, I'm able to do that. I'm able to hang around pregnant women and keep them pregnant and teach them what signs to, random tangent, sorry. And kind of leads me to, where I am today is I'm a nurse. But my other big thing is you guys. It's Southside. And if I hadn't moved home post-graduation, I would not have met this awesome Focus missionary. Focus stands for Fellowship of Catholic University Students. I wouldn't have met this missionary named Brenda. She used to be a past corps member at Southside. And she found out that I was interviewing in St. Louis. And she said, oh, well, if you're interviewing in St. Louis and you end up getting the job, I have this really great youth group that I want to hook you up with. You guys are the best thing that ever happened to me. You're hanging around the coolest people I've ever met in my entire life. Excluding my family. But I'm so excited that you said yes to God and yes to Southside, yes to this weekend, yes to your unique talents, even if you hadn't quite said yes all the way. Your unique talents that God has given you to convey at Southside and convey in your everyday life. Okay, so I love you guys very much, and I'm very excited for the rest of your weekend. Okay, bye. See you when you get back.